Alrighty, good day and welcome. My name is Mr. JB and today we are going to be going through another Photopea tutorial. Today we're going to be going through creating a skull face. As you can see on this screen, that's kind of what we're going to be aiming for. We're going to aim for an effect that looks something like this. To do this, I've got all the images I need already in here and I'm going to create some duplicates of them all. So one of Marcus, one of this skull, and one of this chunk of bark. Now I'm going to drag them all up and I'm going to kind of shut off layers as I don't need them. Gonna make sure that I've got a copy of everything down in the bottom, and I'm just gonna end up dragging everything down. So I'm gonna bring my locked layers down to the bottom, bam bam bam, and make sure that I cannot see them. I'll turn on all my other layers, and from here we're gonna select our skull. We're gonna bring our skull up to the top layer, since this is going to be the top layer for our selection right now, and we're gonna drop our opacity down. Drop it to somewhere around 50% for the time being. It's just so that way you can see your bottom image, and so that way we can kind of stretch this out and manipulate this to fit over the face that we want it. Now try and line up your noses, try and stretch your nose so that way it'll work a little bit better for your image, and try and make sure that your eyes fit into the space as well. Now if your image isn't straight on like mine, Marcus is looking straight at us, and so is my skull, then that just means that you'll have to find an image and a skull that match in the same angle, which can be a little bit complicated, but you can go to a 3D software that has 3D skulls and just take an image of it after you've made it work in that angle. Now from here, we're going to bring our opacity back to 100% because it's lined up with where I want it to be. We're going to add a raster mask layer. To do that, we are just going to click on this Add a Raster Mask button, kind of looks like a camera, and then we're going to select the white box and press Ctrl and I. That will invert the color and make it black, which will allow us to do the overlay that we want to do. Now from here, we're going to select our brush tool, and we are going to change our brush to the right side here, which is our soft mechanical, and adjust your pixel size depending on the size of your image. So mine, I've set it at 63. And make sure that your paintbrush color is white. Now, bottom left corner of your screen, you'll see I've got black and white, and just make sure if it's not, click on it and drag it up to the top so that way it is white. When we draw on top of a white or a black raster mask, it ends up bringing back that image that is initially there. So we're just gonna overlay, knock out some of those teeth, knock out the nose, and we are just gonna kind of bring that in. Now, I personally like being able to see the eye a little bit, both eyes. So for me, I like having a little bit more of that showing. Now with that, I kind of went a little bit overboard on what I like to see. I kind of like to see a little bit of that brow arch. I think that looks really neat. And I've kind of gone over to the beard a little bit. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to adjust that, just kind of feather in that area. And the skull is roughly where I want it. Now the skull doesn't look very good at this point in time as our overlay, because the colors aren't really matching. It looks entirely different. So we are going to overlay this color and change it and alter it so that way it can look more like what we want. We're going to go to image and we're going to go to adjustments, and then we're going to go to hue and saturation. It'll open up this menu, and this is just going to take some time and some finicking depending on your image. For me, I've done this a handful of times as I practice, so I know that I'm going to drop my saturation level down, and I'm going to bring this to somewhere around the bluey range. That's going to give me a color that looks more similar to what I want and kind of matches the bluish hue of the actual image itself. Now I'm going to click OK because I'm happy with that, and great. Now if you look at this and you go, wow, that looks fantastic, I just want to leave it here, by all means. I'm going to show you another little bit that you can do to kind of make this go to the next level. I'm going to drag my piece of bark up to the top, and I'm going to shrink its size down, and I'm going to create a couple copies of this. So I'm going to bring up my first copy. I'm going to put it roughly around the forehead to eyes area, and then I'm going to make a duplicate. That one I'm going to spin. That way I can get a different angle of the bark and put it going down the left side of the face. And in case you didn't guess it, we're going to be doing the same thing on the left side of the face. Now with these three layers, we're going to end up dealing with a couple of these funky adjustments. And while we're dealing with that, we are going to create some raster mask layers. So on all three, you're going to create a raster mask layer. And similar to what we did with our skull, we're going to invert them all. So that way we can brush in what we want to. Now, when we're doing that, we are going to change each color, and we're going to change that from our normal section. You're going to select soft light. That's going to allow you to kind of see the bark itself, but at the same point, it's not going to change the color of it. It's just going to allow that darkness to show through, which makes a really neat effect. Now, with my image selected, again, I'm going to end up choosing my white brush. And on the forehead, I'm just going to end up drawing a little bit of this in. Now make sure that when you are, I just made a little whoopsie, make sure that you have the black box selected. That's going to allow you to kind of select what you need to. And as you can see, I am starting to draw a little bit. You can see those lines starting to appear on the forehead. If I didn't have that, for example, that's what it would look like. You would see all of the bark, which isn't really what we want. So soft light will end up allowing the color to stay in what we want. And then you just do a little bit of your overlay, and as you go to a different image, a different section, you want to end up redrawing. And again, make sure that you're selecting the right box. I run into that error pretty often when I make a little bit of a whoopsie. So just kind of draw in your skull, draw in the spaces where you want to end up having a little bit more of that cracking action. We're going to go over to the left, and I think for Marcus, having this scar here can add a nice, more intensely textured effect as you kind of draw through a little bit more of the texture from our bark. Now, from there, this is typically where I like to leave it. I don't usually do much more with this. You can do some extra layers to make it look like skin is peeling away, but for me, I think this looks pretty great when you're done. Now, with that, that is truly all we're going to cover. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Have a wonderful day, take care, and be safe.